Happy Monday, everybody. Sam Shapiro back here with more of your Heat latest on FanArc. Don't forget to drop a like on this video and, of course, subscribe for great daily content all pertaining to the Miami Heat. A trade involving Jusuf Nurkic for Terry Rozier, could that be worth Miami's time? Personally, I think yes, because not only are you getting rid of Rozier, you're sending him to a destination that actually might want to acquire him and not just try to flip draft stock or something like that out of him in the grand scheme of things. You know, Rozier played some of the best basketball in his career in Charlotte. One of his best seasons, I believe, averaged around 20 points per game there as well. And I just think that a deal when sending him back to Charlotte, reuniting them together in exchange for Nurkic, a forward that could definitely help bolster Miami's front court going into the tip-off of this regular season, could definitely be worth both teams' time and would ultimately be giving them stuff that would, or assets that would really help bolster both of their rosters going forward. Rozier also, now kind of on the older side of his career, could really help mentor some of the young guys coming into Charlotte. And in the grand scheme of things, Miami would benefit because they wouldn't just be settling for draft stock or, just getting rid of $24 million. They'd be getting a quality forward that could definitely add some depth to their rotation overall, assuming Nurkic could stay healthy and really, make a difference, at least on the offensive side of the ball. I know his best days were really in Portland, and those are kind of behind him a little bit at this point, but there's no reason why he couldn't come onto this team. And, he's a tough player. I think he would really fit in with what Heat culture ultimately stands for, and just being gritty and making tough plays and, diving, going for those hustle plays. And just, I really think that Nurkic would add a lot to Miami's rotation and would definitely fulfill a need that this front court absolutely needs going into this regular season. So drop in the comments if you think that'd be a solid move for both teams. Again, I think Nurkic would be a really good add. And if they were able to get him in a swap involving Rozier, I think that would be definitely valuable to Miami's time, at least going at this exact point in time. But another forward that I think Miami could look at possibly getting also on the East Coast is Richaun Holmes. I definitely think he's a solid player that Miami could potentially look into picking up over the course of this, really for the beginning of the season. A veteran guy as well. His best days were really in Sacramento back during the 2020-21 season, where he averaged around 14 points per game. But, Miami's still in desperate need of front court need. And I think Holmes could definitely be a guy that would deepen that rotation for Miami going forward. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to be able to refathom the player he once was, but I definitely do think that, they could get away with especially signing him for a pretty cheap deal right now, considering his last 3 seasons weren't very much of strong showings, to be completely honest with you. Not really averaging more than 8 points per game in any of those seasons. So I definitely think he's a guy that could help bolster Miami's rotation, maybe be a 9th or 10th guy in, down the line, and could come in, maybe grab some good rebounds. But I just think that because of the amount of guards that Miami is, or the development that they've kind of been prioritizing in the backcourt, I feel like Holmes would definitely be a good add for Miami, at least for a veteran guy that could help in the front court and help make an impact on that side of the ball, and especially down low for Miami going into this upcoming season. And speaking of another forward who's kind of been at the forefront of talks with Miami, Andrew Wiggins, being ranked 23rd by Hoops Hype on their top 26 small forwards list going into this NBA season, being ranked ahead of guys like RJ Barrett and Jonathan Kuminga. I was very happy to see that, because I think that's a very respectful place, or at least on their list, that they put him. But, obviously he's not going to get ranked ahead of guys like Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James. That's kind of, I would say they're pretty much in a league of their own. But, some of the names that I did see that were a little surprising that kind of popped out, Brandon Miller was one of those guys I was a little surprised about, and Benedict Mathurin, another 2 guys I would say he's a little bit better than at least Brandon Miller. I feel like Miller kind of was ranked above him just because of how he has impacted the Hornets game in the grand scheme of things. Without Miller, I feel like a lot of those games that were closer for Charlotte would have ultimately gone the other way if Miller wasn't on the court. I feel like a very focal supporting cast member for LaMelo Ball, especially over this last season. So I kind of understand the process of why he maybe got ranked over Wiggins there, but Quite honestly, Wiggins is an NBA champion, former first overall pick. I just think in terms of the athlete of a type of player, his athletic ability is just, I think it's kind of in a class of its own. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but I just think his athletic ability, there are not a lot of players in the NBA that I really think can do what he can do in terms of, especially his ability to jump. I don't know. I think 23 is a fair spot to put him on this list, but I just think that especially having, I understand why Cooper Flagg is ahead of him on this list because of the hype surrounding him, and he has played, with NBA competition, already performing pretty efficiently, against them, but he hasn't really played in an NBA game yet, so I thought that the fact that Cooper Flagg was kind of already on this list was a little shocking to me, but to have him ahead of Wiggins already, I don't know. I'm not completely against it, but I feel like you can't really make that a clear-cut ranking without, actually playing in an NBA game yet. But drop in the comments if you think Andrew Wiggins got snubbed on this ranking, or if he was accurately placed, or they put him in a good spot in the grand scheme of things. I think overall Wiggins was able to prove that he can be a very good player for a lot of teams, putting up, I would say, pretty solid numbers with not just the Timberwolves, but also his time in Golden State especially. I've said in previous episodes, if you take him off that Golden State roster, I don't know if they win the championship against the Celtics, but what he was able to do in the short time with Miami, just kind of getting flipped over there pretty quickly, just in the time he was there, he was kind of able to be one of the more impactful players in the roster. And I get it, kind of filling in the shoes of Jimmy Butler is no easy task, so to speak. But I think Wiggins did a pretty solid job, and it's exciting to see that Miami is excited about really seeing him develop in the 305 going into this regular season. And I'm hoping that by the end of this regular season, he's a little bit higher than 23. He's maybe can crack the top 10, fingers crossed, but that might be a little bit optimistic. Hopefully could reach that top 15 spot depending on how he develops. But, I mean, hey, when Jimmy Butler came in, nobody thought he was going to develop into a borderline superstar that was going to take Miami to 2 trips to the finals. I'm not saying Wiggins is necessarily going to do that, but there's definitely, I feel like there's more of a ceiling for the 30-year-old small forward to come out and really develop into a dynamic player for Miami going into this season. So hopefully he'll be a little bit higher on that list than 23 as the season progresses. But drop in the comments if you think this was fairly placed, too high, too low, or just drop in the comments where you think Wiggins, where he got placed was a fair argument or not. And now moving over to another forward with Miami, Nikola Jovic has been tearing it up overseas, especially playing for Serbia. And he kind of continued to do just that over the course of the last week, really suiting up in a game against Slovenia. And he was the team's leading scorer in a matchup where all 15 players were able to take the floor, dominating in a 106-72 win. He had 18 points on 7 of 8 shooting to go along with 7 rebounds. And then he also outscored Luka Doncic in that game, where Doncic, I believe, had 17 points. And then Nikola Jokic, the Joker, had 10 points, I believe, in that game as well. So very interesting to see Jovic kind of outshine 2 NBA superstars in international play. Again, it was Jokic and Doncic's first time taking the court since the NBA playoffs ended. So I get, maybe shaking off the rust a little bit in a full game speed type of environment. But seeing Eric Spoelstra there supporting Jovic, and Jovic saying he was inspired just to see his coach there cheering him on. It's how the team, just that overall, the message that sends, having your coach go and support you overseas and praising, your ability to play in that field with NBA competition internationally. It speaks volumes to not just Heat culture, but Spoelstra really wanting to see this roster develop and work, and just seeing his, players hopefully improving on themselves year in and year out, and not just trying to, shop for kind of, not just hoping that he's going to become good so then they can shop him away and then hopefully get another player out of him going forward. But I just think that it sends a message that he genuinely cares about wanting him to become a better player and being able to help bolster Miami's success going forward, especially into this upcoming season. So another nice performance by Jovic, playing for Serbia in that game against Slovenia. And hopefully it's just kind of a teaser of what we're going to see this upcoming regular season. I know now kind of this past year was his real first year where he was consistently averaging double figures, at least 10 points per game. But, I mean, when you see double figure scoring on shooting like that, I mean, I believe he did it in about just under 20 minutes of play in the game. So just, again, very efficient, and I'm hoping it's kind of just a tease of what we can expect out of this young man going into the course of this regular season. And, I would, even if he wasn't playing well, I wouldn't say, oh, we're doomed. But when you see something like this, it's definitely a lot more promising, and it definitely gets you excited to see how he's going to play coming into the tip-off of this regular season. But that's going to do it for today's episode of your Heat Latest here on FanArc. Don't forget to drop a like on this video, and of course subscribe for great daily content, all pertaining to the Miami Heat. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Sam Shapiro. Have a great Monday.